All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Blair Nickel with FranNet. I oversee the Pacific Northwest and Southern California, as well as one of the principal owners of the parent company of FranNet. And this is a webinar today. Like I said, will be approximately 20 minutes plus or minus, and it is a webinar designed for those people in the Pacific Northwest who are learning about franchising and maybe possibly looking at specific franchises at this point. And we always like to do these webinars about once a month and have what we feel are some of the top franchisors that are poised for this market on these webinars so that our clients can learn about them. So this one is called titled Timber Tech Resistant Residential Service, although it can also be commercial service, and I'm sure they'll talk about that. But here's why we like this business, specifically for the Pacific Northwest, is that, look, we have this great giant company based up in Seattle called Amazon, and this is a fairly technology-resistant business. There's really no bricks and mortar or prime A location necessary for this business. There might be some, minor leases, maintenance, or a little bit of inventory, but nothing gigantic for this type of business compared to most types of franchises. It is a repeat customer, repeat sales, so very reliable revenues. It is also extremely scalable based on territory, and it's one of those very few companies out there where you don't need to build or grow this business by duplicating bricks and mortar. It's more about just developing the territory. And within the United States, I couldn't think of a better territory for this type of business as it is here in the Pacific Northwest. As I look out my office here, I can see everywhere down the line from Mount Adams in Washington to Mount Hood all the way down to Mount Bachelor. And the number of trees I see out there has got to count, I don't know, in the hundreds of millions. I mean, there's a lot of trees out there that need to be serviced, that need to be taken care of. As I look at the lot of the house that's being built below me, they just had to rip out their trees within the past few weeks. There's a house being built 2 doors down. They had to rip out their trees to build, and I'm sure they spent several thousands of dollars and had to have a professional service do this. And what these franchisors are very good at doing is finding a service that is already out there being used by companies, by the general public, that these franchisors find a better way of doing it. They systematize it. They bring brand name. They bring purchasing power where they really tend to overtake these independents. So that's what this company has done. So I'm going to turn it immediately over to Monster Tree and TJ, and then we actually do have a franchisee of theirs on the line as well. His name is Eric Miller. He was a client of mine. I can't remember, Eric, about a year and a half ago.
About a year and a half ago, yeah.
Area. Yeah, and so he's in the greater Portland area, and he'll be able to talk about his experience with Monster Tree at the end. So you'll be able to ask some questions directly to Eric. So without further ado, TJ, I will send it over to you.
Awesome, Blair. Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. We are really excited to have this opportunity to present Monster Tree Service to everyone on the call today. And I know we have the big draw here, which is our franchisee, Eric Miller, out of the Portland office. So I will not take too much of the time so that we can jump right into the Q&A, with the advantage of having a franchise owner here. So just going to give you guys a brief overview of kind of Monster Tree, what this opportunity kind of is, what the support we provide, and just give you kind of a general feel. And then certainly if you want to jump into the process, work with Blair, he'll get you with me, and we'll go even deeper into everything. So let's get all set up here. So first, as you look at Monster Tree Service, this is our process on how we'd work you through the process. So you see we have our introductory call, which would be the first step. Then we take you into a really deep dive of the numbers. So we take you right deep into the investment, understanding the equipment. We then provide you our franchise disclosure document and get you into our validation rotation. Eric is on validation regularly for us, so you'll see that we host 3 calls a week. So very quickly we get you all our information and get you speaking to our franchise owners. Now, here is our founder, Josh Skolnick. Now, for this short call, there's only mainly 2 things that you need to know about Josh. Josh was not from the tree care industry. He did not grow up around trees. He wasn't some big tree guru that just has this master knowledge about trees that you'd never be able to duplicate. The second thing you need to know about Josh is he is a serial entrepreneur, started his first business at the age of 13, and that's really how he came into tree care, was seeing the business potential of the tree care industry and then jumping into it himself. So that happened back on June 8th of 2008, and obviously we'll get much deeper into that story if you jump into the process. But what you need to know, again, is that Josh saw the potential in Monster Tree, jumped in with both feet, and in his first full year of revenue, 2010, he broke over $1 million in sales. At that point, he said, man, this is a big business. I need to get into the franchising side. He started working towards that, and then in 2013, we awarded our first franchise to Steve Young. Now, that is not Steve Young, NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. It would be cool if it was, but Steve Young is still a great guy for us in our system today and gets on validation regularly, just like Eric, so you get a lot of chances to talk to him and learn about, what's changed in the system and why he took the risk to be franchisee number one with Monster Tree. Now, on this slide, probably the biggest thing to understand is 2016, we took a break from selling franchises, and during that time developed our national recruiting team and our national website. And those are two of our big support items that have really changed the game for us. So we now have our original set of owners, our legacy franchisees, and then our new set of franchisees like Eric, who had those advantages to launch within the business, and you see a much faster growth in the owners since that time. Now, the other thing to point out here is in 2018, you can see we sold over 90 territories across the U.S. This year alone, we've already sold over 54 territories for Monster Tree, so we're well on pace to do over 100. So you see big markets starting to come off the board. We are definitely in that big growth mode where these large, ideal territories like Portland, like the West where you guys are, is just not going to last much longer because, again, if there's people and trees, it is a great market for us, and certainly our owners have proven that so far. So here's kind of a breakout of where the franchisees stand at this point. We do have about 65 offices, some still coming through training, and you see most owners own about 2 to 3 territories. Now we do have 2 investment models. So like Eric runs more semi-absentee where he has a general manager in place of the business, so not operating necessarily day-to-day as the owner. If you do that model, you'd hire a GM that would act on your behalf as the owner-operator, really getting out there and being the CEO of the business, managing the teams, the sales individuals, and creating those local relationships. So you can kind of go either direction. I'd say most common is probably an owner-operator that 2 or 3 years down the line is going to shift into a semi-absentee. That's probably what we see more commonly. Now here are our revenue numbers. So you see in the first year, and then this is the second and third year, and then our legacy guys are over here on the right. So just quickly glancing at these numbers, you can see our first year annual revenues at close to $600,000. Those owners are definitely on a much faster growth trajectory than the guys that are at just over $1 million 4 years into the business, and that's maybe something that Eric can talk about a little bit more, but you definitely see that faster growth today, scaling into multiple teams even quicker. Now, we are operational all 52 weeks out of the year, so there is no seasonality. We'll teach you how to sell throughout the year for that, build up that backlog. Now, we do all the regular services for a tree company, so we are full service. We have a competitive advantage on the website, so the emergency services are huge for us. And then we'll talk about our plant health care and the secondary services market. So plant health care is just an additional way to grow the revenue. This is the recurring service revenue model where you have just one guy, a pickup truck, and you're going out to your customer and providing deep root fertilizations, root crown excavations. You're upselling into these services. You can also get into mosquito and tick control as well as lawn fertilization. So a lot of different avenues to branch out the services here and create that recurring model. Now, one of the exciting things about the business is this back-end resale, where you're going to be reselling the wood chips, firewood, and logging. You do not have to start this way, but it's something to grow into. This is not part of the model that Monster Tree sells, so you'd be doing this kind of on your own, but that means that it is 100% royalty-free. And you just think about this math. Customers are paying you to take the trees off-site. You throw them through a wood chipper, turn them into wood chips, and then you're able to resell that as mulch to someone else, and that resale is going to be full profit for you. Now here's our leadership team. So you can see our founder, Josh Skolnick, our COO, Dane Buell, one of the bigger names in tree care, actually wrote the ANSI standards, so a great pull for us to get him into the business. our CFO, Greg Belinsky, our Director of Franchise Services, Scott Hillary, and then the big one here is our Director of Operations, Joe Dinkovich. He leads a team of 4 other individuals around the country that could each handle about 20 to 30 franchisees. They're strategically placed to different markets, so we kind of have the country split off into sections, and this is where we're going to be able to handle over 100 franchisees right now, and we only have about 65 in the system, so we absolutely have room to grow. Now, one of the big support items for Monster Tree is the national recruiting team. So we're going to help you identify, screen, and place every single employee in the business. Now, there's a lot of work you need to do on a local level, but so many people come in with the idea of, hey, I'm not from Tree Care, so how would I be able to staff my own office? And this is where Monster Tree steps in and runs that level of support so that you get the right guys with the right experience inside the team. Here's a look at the team, 3 guys into production, and then you have a sales arborist. So if you're an owner-operator, this would be the small team that you'd be starting off with. Now on the equipment side, there are 7 large pieces of equipment you must purchase when you begin the business. Now Monster Tree has national negotiated pricing on all of this. You saw the map earlier. We are the fastest growing tree care company in the U.S., so we have the lowest rates on this equipment as well. So there are your 3 trucks. Then we have our production equipment here, your chipper and stump grinder, and then we have this additional equipment as well. Now, this stuff is all tangible items, so much different investment, as Blake was alluding to earlier, a much different investment level in terms of investing into this large tangible equipment as opposed to a lease space build-out into a brick and mortar. So you're getting this tangible item that can always be resold, upgraded, has that depreciation and great tax benefits along with it. Now, here is our marketing. Now, from marketing, we would have everything you would think from a normal franchise, a whole online digital portal, all your door hangers, print ads, mailers, business cards, all that kind of great stuff that would be available for you. But that's all secondary to our main competitive advantage, which is our website. And now the way the website is our advantage is we have a national website with thousands of microsites that create this strong SEO content, and we tie your website to that. And when people start to search on a local level to your location, Google recognizes your connection to our national presence, and it's going to boost you right up to the top of that page. So we'll get you to the top of those search results. It'll get the phone ringing, and I can promise you, and Eric will probably attest to this, lead flow is not really an issue for us. This is definitely an industry where there are not enough reputable companies to handle the demand of work in these areas. So our owners very quickly have the lead flow that they need to get the business moving. Now here on territory, we work in baseline populations of 200,000, comes at a base price of $49.5, and then you have a multiple territory price discount for the more territories that you purchase at one time. Most owners own between 2 to 3 territories, and I think Eric bought a 3-territory market there in Portland, so just kind of give you guys an idea of a typical size for us. Now, competition, if you guys have never had tree service done in your local market, I encourage you, if you do have interest in Monster Tree, reach out to a few companies. I'm sure you'll have one good one in there, but what you're probably going to find is a lot of people don't call you back. If they do, it's not very timely. They're probably going to be pushing you out for a couple days to come out and do an appointment. Just not the way that you would think, hey, if I was running a business trying to maximize my customers, I'd probably run it a little bit more different, a little more focus on the customer service, and that's where we have that advantage is our owners come in very customer service focused, and it's just not the way a lot of the competition handles the industry right now. Now, under the training side, I'm not going to give you guys a ton of detail. The biggest thing with the training that I like to talk about is how we help you launch the business. So once you come on board, you attend the initial training class up in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, what we call Monster Academy. You would come back to your local market and launch your first half of the business, which is the marketing side. So your website, couple print pieces go live, and we help you pre-sell your services and build up an initial backlog of 2 to 3 weeks prior to going out and launching production. The main advantage here is that you don't add in those hourly employees until you're ready to send them out with a full worker schedule. So on day one, those hourly employees are out producing profitable work, and you're collecting payment at the time of service. So this is not a model where you have a slow burn, all your expenses come in, and then you go customer by customer. We're going to help you preload those customers, and then when you add in that production team, you're going to hit the ground running and be getting into that cash flow positive pretty quickly. So that's kind of the way that we help you set it up. Now, for us, the right fit is going to be someone who is looking for something different than corporate America, but comes with that business experience. So none of our franchisees have come from the green space, come from tree care, but they all are great about managing individuals, motivating teams, and understanding a P&L sheet and kind of how to push and pull the levers on a business. So if that sounds like you have the business sense, would love to be a little bit more outdoors, have a little bit more free, flexible work schedule, and grow a big business with a lot of different revenue streams in there, that's kind of what Monster Tree represents. Some of the things that Blake mentioned earlier, we are about 90% residential versus commercial because of our advantage on the website, but you can do anything that falls under tree care, government work, commercial work, etc. And then definitely an ideal market for us is anywhere where there are trees, people, and lots of competition. The more competition, the better. It just shows us the demand is there, and we'll have plenty of employees to pull into your business. So that's kind of everything on my end. I'm sorry if I rushed a little bit. Would love to go back and revisit any of that if you guys have questions, but certainly want to maximize our time with our franchisee, Eric, here on the phone as well, and kind of open it up to him. So, Blake, is that the direction you want to go from here? Or?
Yeah, so we'll have Eric just kind of do a brief introduction. Eric, since we only have about 5 minutes for this section, we'll kind of keep it to kind of rapid-fire questions, and then I will wrap it up here.
Sure. This is Eric Miller, Monster Tree Service of Portland. I think you heard it before. I've been doing this about a year and a little over a year. We've been in operation for about a year and a few months getting revved up. Having a lot of fun. It's a real competitive marketplace here in the Portland area, which has its challenges, but I think as TJ mentioned earlier, it shows that there's a lot of business. So I'll just leave it at that and ask you for questions.
So Eric, this is Blair. You obviously you went through our process as you were a client of ours.
Yep.
You know a lot of the questions that these guys are probably looking to get answered. Is there 2 or 3 you would say, hey, I know what you guys are looking for. Here's what you need to know.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the notes that you had sent. They kind of describe it. I think you really nail it. Typically, questions that people ask me are you know, that they don't ask Blair or TJ, well, maybe they do, are usually what are the most challenging or negative type aspects, you know, what's the dark truth of it. I would probably say one of the challenges is staffing. Not getting the staff, but keeping the staff. You know, if you've ever had tree service done, a high percentage of the guys that work in the business are pretty rough and tumble blue-collar folks. So it's important to be able to work with them and build a rapport with them and try to retain them because, you know, they're the key to your business. In the first year, we've actually turned over our first crew a couple times. And in doing so, we learned each time, and, you know, we hired a different type and a better type of person. And so now we have a very, very strong, reliable crew that we're really happy with. And we treat them really well. Another question another question people pop up is, you know, how realistic are the finances? I actually wasn't, or I couldn't see the numbers that TJ popped up, but I'm sure they're similar to the ones I've seen before. They tend to be pretty accurate. But they vary by region to region. I think a lot of those numbers are strongly biased by the East Coast, and some things are easier on the East Coast than the West Coast, and some things are easier on the West Coast. But on the Pacific Northwest, some of the differences that we've discovered, it's probably a more competitive environment than most places in the East Coast, especially if you're in a metro area like Portland. There's a lot of different type of businesses. The advertising and marketing strategy is a little different on the West Coast. People just don't respond to a lot of the mail things that work on the East Coast. As TJ mentioned, the website is key, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, a lot of those types of things are really keen. The other thing, getting back to the numbers, are because there's such a strong green tree business out in this area, and it's the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington. They all have pretty progressive labor policies. The cost of labor is generally on the high side. And again, I've gone through a couple crews to find the right guys, and you want to reward them. So we probably pay on the high side of the ranges that TJ might show you if you're looking at some of the finances.
Great. Other questions for Eric? So this is your chance to ask for somebody who's obviously chosen Monster Tree and does it for a living. So now's your chance. Eric, I got a couple other questions. Do you run
Sure.
this business full-time or semi-absentee?
That's a great question. Yes, and both. My original plan was to do it semi-absentee. I dedicated a lot of time starting up. Probably by last September, I was in position to go more semi-absentee, but my other day job wasn't as alluring. So I've actually spent more time on Monster Tree than I originally planned. Most of that's because I'm enjoying it. I should throw in my general manager is my adult son, who really handles all the day-to-day stuff really well. He's really sharp. He's really good. So I actually enjoy working with him, and so that's kind of dragged me into the more full-time. I'm also focusing on growth. We're at one big crew, got an oversized crew, and I spend a lot of my time recruiting and planning and figuring out how to get to 3, 4, 5 crews and expand, because that's our objective.
Okay. And how did you land on Monster Tree compared to the other businesses?
I think it was two key things, Blair. One was one of the things you mentioned about the scalability and not having to rely on retail space or office space and hinging things on where you locate that first gamble. You have good, curb appeal and things like that. You avoid all of that, and it's just an area that I just didn't want to get involved with. But the second part of it really was the kind of the monster team, the guys back at, headquarters. I liked all of them, and I got along all of them, all of the names that TJ mentioned, as well as a number of the older original franchisees. As I got more in depth and started talking to them, I saw a lot of similarity and camaraderie. So, it was important to me that I wanted to work with people that I enjoy working with.
Great. Well, Eric, I want to thank you for your time and lending it
Sure.
to everybody on the line. Thank you, TJ, for your time as well, for doing the presentation. I want to be respectful of everybody's time as we get into the afternoon. I promise we keep it to about 20, 25 minutes, and we're at that point. So if you want to learn more about Monster Tree and or other franchises, these franchisors want us to pre-qualify you. Make sure it is a good fit, a good match prior to having you research them. So if you've taken our personal franchise assessment tool and we have it on file, great. Just let me know or let us know, whether it's myself or Emily, or if you're working with Charlie in Washington, and we will get you registered with Monster Tree and they will reach out to you. If you haven't done it, we will get the link out to you, and if you could do your assessment, that would be great, and then we can get you connected with TJ and his team. And then you can start talking to the Erics of the world within Monster Tree to learn what it's all about. So again, I want to thank everybody for all of your time today. Enjoy the warm weather while we got it. And what I could tell is it's mostly guys on this call. I'm sure some of you are fathers. So this Sunday, have a wonderful Father's Day. So thank you, everybody, and we will chat with you soon.
Thank you, Blair.